Live from the Green Room Studios, from the spacious property of Bates Nursery and Garden Center, 3810 Whites Creek Pike, it's the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates.
Oh, yeah, calm down. Hey, we got a lot to do today on the At Home Show. It's Saturday morning, of course.
Absolutely.
So, but we're here for you, folks, from the Green Room Studios here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. It's 0.9 miles north of Bradley Parkway at exit 19, and it's worth the drive from everywhere.
So we hear.
I am Josh Cary.
And I am David Bates.
And he's here in studio with us this morning.
I am, and largely intact. I have had to submit to another eye surgery, which is, I can tell you, is not a comfortable process, and then the recovery thereof is not altogether comfortable, but it's doable. This is my third time around.
Yes. I
should be getting used to it. I'm not. So, anyway, there we go.
So I'm dodging in your peripheral here.
Yes. But anyway, I'm on the road, hopefully back to restorative vision in both eyes. At least I do have vision.
Binocular vision is good. That's a good thing.
You'd be surprised how handy it is when you're trying to grab something and it's not where you think it is. So anyway, that's another subject for another day. Today is, of course, Saturday, and it's going to be really a beautiful day so long as you like sunshine and wind. It's going to be breezy today. We're going to have, and we've had quite a lot of windy weather of late, so this is not like it's something unusual. However, we're going to have winds by afternoon in the upper teens to low 20-mile-an-hour range, which means that people who have had eye surgery should
stay inside.
Yeah, it should not be out in the wind and the dust. So I'm going to do my best to follow my doctor's orders on that respect. But otherwise, it's going to be a nice day, and but we are going to be experiencing some cooler temperatures overnight. 31 degrees for the overnight low. Could be. So a widely scattered frost situation is likely, maybe a light freeze in areas. So be mindful of that. And as we go through tomorrow, it's going to be, again, only in the mid-50s. So it's going to be a cool early springtime day. But it is not, it's not going to be anything like
2 weeks ago.
It's not going to be like it was a couple weeks ago for just a little bit. However, we're looking forward to improved weather conditions here as we go through the coming week. It will warm up. Look like, and I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time getting my weather to cooperate with me. It's just a technical snafu, so why would we expect otherwise? That's what happens when you're doing live broadcasts. I did take a peek at it earlier, however. So
it's going to be nice next
week.
I
had the foreknowledge of the fact that it's going to warm up. We may see 80-degree temperatures by the middle part of the week. Only 79, and now they're saying, and some rain, which is not unusual. We got to have a little bit of that along the way. That should get out by Thursday morning. It's going to cool back down, 62 for the high Thursday. But you notice that the trend for temperatures is really just about right. We'll talk about that more with everyone here. I like the trend so far we're having with respect to weather, although obviously everyone would love for it to be 75 degrees and sunshine.
With 45% humidity.
It would be nice. It's just not realistic.
It's
not realistic, but what we are having is a nice, smooth transition. Apart from the light freeze conditions tonight, we're having a pretty mild transition through spring. And as we get into, by next Saturday, we will actually be in April. So we will be ever approaching our average last frost date. So, the question that comes to mind is this indeed the last one? Well, we don't know.
It's going to average itself out.
But we will find out. So currently it's 44 degrees here in the Music City and sunny conditions. So it's a great day to get out. Really a no excuses kind of a day, including kite flying because it's going to be rather windy.
Be a great kite flying day.
So let's bring everyone else here into the fold here. First of all, Tyler, welcome and good morning to you. Glad to have you here today. It's because of Tyler, the reason we get to be on the air. He's the guy who restarts all the restartable things and
multiple times.
Yeah, we do what we have to do to make the on air event happen. Also welcome Caroline Gant. Austin Lowen, welcome, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Appreciate you being here as always. Before we go further, we need to talk about. And by the way, great show last week, guys. And
we thought so.
I never had any questions that it wouldn't be. My not being here did not seem to have an effect.
We talked about that.
So yeah, I'm sure.
You.
Anyway, but one of the things I did notice in the rebroadcast that I watched on Monday was what's in bloom this week, and
hey Austin,
hey.
What's in bloom?
A lot of things in bloom. I was sat on my front porch last night writing things down just so I could remember how many things were in bloom. So let's start with the biggest one right now this week was cherries. So the Yoshino cherries have lit up. So those are the ones that officially, and they're the white blooming ones that are much smaller than Bradford pear. I know Bradford pear is still in bloom. We'll go ahead and get that out of the way.
He used the two words in the same sentence.
Those are the bigger white blooming ones right now. The smaller ones are a little bit more wide than they are tall typically as the trees go. They've got a wide spread on them, but they've got a much daintier white little bloom on them, and they're in full show right now. Good little understory tree, great tree to plant down your driveway or just a little specimen in the yard. So they're always beautiful. Another one that you probably don't think about too much is peaches are in bloom right now. That's the very pink blooming smaller trees that are in bloom right now. Also patio peach, which is a more dwarf variety of peach tree. Those are all in full show right now. So a lot of the genus Prunus, which is a very large genus of plant, which includes cherries and peaches and plums and all that good stuff.
Laurels,
yeah. It's a large
Skip and Buffy?
Yeah.
Well, Skip for sure. Not Buffy.
Yeah, the skips aren't quite blooming yet, or I haven't noticed them around my area yet, but they will be soon. Like I mentioned, also plums and sand cherries. Sand cherry is kind of a cool tree you don't think about. A very small, kind of purple leaf plant that's blooming. It's like pink in bud, opens up to a soft pink, almost white. It's a very small tree, so those are the ones you kind of see those out in the country more. There's an old school kind of plant. They are in full show right now. Another one I wanted to mention that you really don't think about is weeping willows. So there's male and female weeping willows. So the males do not have any flowers. Flowers is a loose. They're technically catkins.
They're what?
Want to know catkins?
Okay.
It's the fancy word for
their
blooms. But there's male catkins and there's female catkins. So the big weeping willows that just have leaves right now, those are going to be the males. And then the big ones that are blooming yellow, cascading all the way down to the ground, big yellow blooming plants, those are weeping willows in bloom. So those are the trees.
Now I have noticed one other that maybe I did not hear you say it, but I'm a kind of a city boy. I'm in town a lot more. Red buds are already coming into bloom, starting to see color.
Oh, really?
In town on red buds quite a lot. Now, you don't see them at all in the hillsides out here in the outlying rural areas, but in town, red buds are already starting to show color.
Nice. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess y'all need to know that it is warmer in the city. You get a lot more radiant heat from the roads and buildings and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, red buds are blooming out there. They're not quite blooming out in the country, just like you said. So, that'll be a next week thing, I'm assuming. But when it comes to the shrubs, let's go hit on that. Forsythia still in bloom. Full
year
of
of Forsythia this year.
Oh, yeah.
Man, they're gorgeous.
Along with the Forsythia, quince. We all love our flowering quince. That's in pretty well about 3/4 show right now. I noticed my neighbor has a PJM rhododendron, which is kind of a dark leaf purple blooming rhododendron. It is in about half show right now, so they're just starting to wake up. One for my girl Joy, who's our native queen out here. The Lindera spice bush is in bloom right now. Yeah, Caroline's got one of those on her property. Joy got that for you, didn't she?
She did.
Yeah, birthday present.
I took a picture and sent it to everybody the other day.
I know I did too, because I got just a random one that popped up on a fence line that's in bloom right now. So cool little plant, good for seeing some cool caterpillars. A spice bush swallowtail butterfly that has a cool larvae stage. Looks like a
little snake. It's
like
a
little
green snake that folds up into the leaves. Yeah,
it's a cool looking caterpillar. So those are cool. And then the last one that nobody thinks about or even knows about is the hardy flowering almonds. I saw a little almond on my way home yesterday. It's a cool little double pink blooming shrub.
Yet another prunus genus.
Yes, another prunus.
From the genus Prunus?
Yeah. And they're in full bloom, so a lot of stuff in bloom right now. Not to mention the candy tuft and the creeping phlox. Creeping phlox, you gotta love that. Old school perennial, pops up in lawns anywhere really. It's a slow spreading little perennial ground cover, but great for little rock beds or front borders. But they're showing up right now, all sorts of pinks and whites and blues.
A lot
Little
of folks
blanket.
a lot of folks are having that ground cover henbit as well.
Oh Lord,
yes.
I don't know if we call that a ground cover or a.
It covers the ground, but I mean it's a weed. But it's
certainly in bloom. Yeah,
technically anything that's growing where you don't want it is a weed because that's a plant out of place. But certainly, I don't know that anyone has actually successfully
cultivated henbit.
I don't know of any cultivars of henbit that are widely known, but what we do know is that we've got a lot of questions out there, and Caroline is cutest in on that. El número 14, I think. So
there it is.
14 of them.
Yep.
14 of
So
them.
far, and we have a question on Facebook too. So let's go to the
15.
Instagram feed.
Wow.
we got to be quick today.
We do have to be quick. All right. Our first question is, what's the best use of pine straw versus pine nuggets versus hardwood mulch?
Well, in a smoothie, I think the needles would probably be better. They're a little easier to go around.
I don't think any of them are particularly
Sounds pretty
applicable
gross.
in a smoothie, but they all provide slightly different functions. The pine straw is a great mulch, particularly because it's so very decorative. It's very easy to install.
Yeah.
Yes, and so from that aspect, it's a whole lot more economical because a bale of it goes a really long way, and it doesn't take very long to put it down. Now, the downside of it is that it, because of its lack of thickness, it doesn't have the shreds or the strands in it. It's very low density compared to either pine bark. It's certainly much more than a shredded hardwood mulch would be. So it doesn't hold the amount of moisture as well as other particulate types of mulches or shredded mulches will. Pine bark, which of course comes from the same plant, is another really excellent bark. And it's a good mulch. The negative side of it is if you use the fines, they are easily disturbed. If you have water that moves through a bed, they'll tend to wash out. The nuggets are almost not used anymore. They have kind of gone by the wayside simply because that they're not as generally available. So, but that leaves you with really, as far as true mulches go, the shredded hardwood mulches are the best simply because of what you really want a mulch to be able to do is to help
last a long time.
Yep.
It's not hard to put down either.
It won't get moved by
right.
water very easily, and it does a pretty good job of blocking out extra light so that you will get some weed control from it.
I've never really liked the nuggets either. I mean, it depends on the look, I
That's
guess.
so 70s. I mean, back in the day.
That was all you could do.
Back in the day, we used to use a lot of nuggets, and we also used black plastic for ground cover, but that's because we didn't have anything better. The Typar that was it's near ubiquitous now was not available much in those days, and so consequently, it was black poly had to be used, and it's not good for using that if you're looking for a weed barrier fabric. It is impermeable, and what happens is if you have to cut a hole around where your plants are to allow water to both evaporate out and to infiltrate in. And what that also does is it steers the weeds right
to
around
the hole, yes.
right where your plants are. So you make sure you have to pull all your weeds right around the plant. So anyway,
Don't forget stone, folks. If you that stone in the right application is gorgeous.
no,
as
it's
well.
very good, and it is permanent if it's installed correctly. So
I will say one thing.
One thing.
Be very, very diligent about where you put the stone.
Yep.
Very diligent, because I just spent a weekend, actually probably more like a week, removing rock from an area where it just weeded over, and it was crazy. So just word of caution. All right, back to you guys.
all right,
Editorial comments
I
from
know.
the technical department.
I know.
Yes,
I
we do.
feel I've been warned.
This message from Tyler's back, brought to you.
All right.
I think we covered that one.
I
so.
think we did. All right, on to our next one. Cover lettuce and spinach tomorrow night. Should they?
I am.
Yeah, you
I'm
probably
doing it
should.
today, actually.
Are you?
Tonight, yeah.
You know, it kind of depends on how young they are. If you just have a little bit, then yes, there's no reason not to cover it up. Just do it. It'll help out. Lettuce and spinach, though, are both very cold hardy. So I would assume if they were big enough, they probably wouldn't get killed by this event tonight. But you might see some tip burn and some damage across the tops of the leaves. And we eat the leaves of lettuce and spinach, so we don't really want them to be damaged. So yes, if you have time and you have a sheet or a blanket or something, you can take
Duvet
out there.
cover at my house is what we use.
There you go. That works
Fancy.
fine.
Yep.
And just cover it up. Now, if you have a whole ton of it, rows upon rows, then it might be a little tricky. But I'm assuming that's not the case. So yeah, go ahead and cover it. It'll just keep them
I
protected.
mean, and if you have that much, how are you going to eat all of it?
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the downside to things, particularly the lettuces. Spinach you can kind of pick along, but the lettuces, or particularly the head varieties, it all kind of comes in at one time. So you have to eat salad morning, noon, and night, and as a bedtime snack, just to stay ahead of it and not feel like you've wasted your effort. And give it to everybody you know, and then as quickly as
Korean barbecue, romaine lettuce. I mean, you have a salad and the Korean barbecue with the lettuce tacos at the same time. Very good.
Wow, it's making me hungry.
Yes.
All right,
That's
on to
so
our
good.
third question. Yeah. How early is too early to plant new perennials?
Got to wait until after the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
When it comes to perennials, they are very, very cold hardy, y'all, and they're going to push up whenever the weather tells them to push up. So planting a pot of dirt seems kind of funny because perennials drop to the ground. For the most part, they're not going to have anything up above the pot, any new growth. So they're going to be, like I said, you're going to be planting a pot of dirt, if you do it early. But there's nothing wrong with that. Getting them in the ground, getting some mulch over top of them, and then letting them come up whenever the weather tells them to come up. Really, you can plant all through the winter, all through this early spring. What you really just have to watch out for is if they do have new tender growth that has already pushed up, and then we do get a freeze or a frost like something tonight.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that people need to be mindful of, and that can be problematic, is we bring a lot of perennials in from all over the country.
Yeah.
Some of them are from the much more extreme southeast, so therefore they're already, and because they've come out of cold frames, they're already well advanced and they're juiced up. You may even, you could possibly see some echinacea in bloom, which won't be blooming here normally on the outside for probably 6 weeks at least yet, but that are in fact in flower. So those kinds of things that you see that are already juiced up and growing ahead of where everything else is outside, you want to be mindful of those. And either if you buy them today, maybe wait until tomorrow to plant them.
Because there's a lot of color coming in around the country.
Well, just look in front of you there. Point to those.
Right.
Look at that Coreopsis, that
Right.
tick seed, full bloom.
Very much.
There is not any tick seed out and around where we're at that's in full bloom. Not even close. I mean,
Not
they're
even let
even-
alone in full leaf.
Yeah, not even leafed out totally. So yeah. Greenhouses can do funny things to perennial plants and make them flower when they're not supposed to. So good point. Don't buy them and then plant them today, because you won't see good flowers
And if
tomorrow.
you have already bought them and planted them from like a week or two prior, and they're actively growing, you might consider putting some kind of cover over them. It's really a good, if like a 1 gallon perennial, if you have saved the old containers, just invert those back over the top at the end of the day, and that will provide sufficient cover.
Very good. Hey, let's get the Facebook question that came along. This is coming from Jake, and Jake wants to know, when planting red, green, and yellow and orange bell peppers, what pot size would you use for the plants?
He didn't say anything about red ones.
He said red, green, yellow, orange.
He didn't say anything about purple ones then.
No.
The purple, yeah.
Oh, he didn't have any purple.
Actually, the peppers are all treated equally, and the color really has nothing to do with it.
They all pretty much taste the same too, I think.
Yeah, but if you're going to try to finish them off, in the same container, you're probably going to want to say buy them from us, put them into a 1 gallon, let them finish in a 1 gallon, and then move them up to their finishing container, which is going to be at least a 5 gallon.
Small, 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah.
But I know that Jake has started these from seed with earth mix, so I know this for a fact.
Well,
so.
and that's a great thing. Now, the more important thing beyond the color of the
Pepper?
of the white pepper is how hot is it, and if you commingle really hot peppers with mild peppers, you will have no mild peppers. They will all be hot because
mediums.
They won't even be medium
Oh.
because the hot gene is the dominant gene trait, and so you will likely have all. If you could have bell peppers or pimentos that you expect to be just as sweet as they can be, and if you have an habanero planted nearby, they're all going to be habaneros likely.
So you're saying 5-gallon?
Well, keep them separated.
Right.
If you've got hot peppers and mild peppers, plant. Particularly if you've got them in containers, you have the option to put them in different spots.
He'll mix them up.
You want to try to put them at some distance in because there are great applications for both. I love my hot peppers, but not at all times, and not all people like all peppers to be hot. And there's nothing worse than getting a surprise of a bell pepper you think is going to be sweet, and it lights you up.
Just stick it on her plate is what you do. Now, Austin, you said you're saying about a 5-gallon pot?
About 5 gallons, about as small as you'd want to go.
Right.
Yeah, because they finish out pretty big. Once we do get hot and they really start pushing, they get to be a large shrub. So.
Yeah, I'm a fan of multiple transplanting. To step them up a little bit at a time, and if you were starting out right now, they're probably nothing more than. If they're out of a seed flat, maybe in a 4-inch pot, and then go to a 6-inch pot, and then from that go to perhaps a 5-gallon. It's really easy to keep them overly wet when you step them up to too large of a container too quickly, particularly when the weather is still in transition, which is where we currently are.
And make sure that you put your colors. You have to have a distinct pattern: red, green, yellow. Maybe an orange, yellow, green. You have to be consistent during this, wouldn't you, David?
Albino peppers?
Albino peppers. Oh, the white ones. They would be.
Well, that would be something we'll let you be in charge of, Josh.
Red, green, yellow, blue. If you don't have the blue ones, but that's just like the Christmas tree. You have to put the balls on the tree with the right color pattern, or it just messes with the psyche of the world if you don't, Jake.
Oh, good to know.
Okay.
Wow.
Psyche the world.
And if you have an obsessive compulsive disorder with regard to your peppers, Josh, you can do it any way you want to.
That's right.
I only grow the hot peppers. Okay.
Well, look at you.
Yeah. Well, and it just bell peppers. I've never had any luck personally.
With bell peppers?
Yeah.
That's strange.
Bugs get them.
Huh.
Seems like.
All right.
It's
Let's
just
get
me.
on to our next question so we can
Okay.
get them all in today.
All right.
Dogwood or redbud for a small area
Yes.
at the corner of my house?
Both are a
Josh
fine
says
choice.
yes. Okay.
I mean,
Depends on how. Again, keep in mind the spacing. I would think would be real key here because the dogwood is going to grow so much slower than the redbud, right?
yeah, they do grow pretty slow. Both of them are similar size tree. I will say that whenever they get to kind of maturity. And it kind of depends if you like purple or if you like white or pink. The dogwoods, like I said, are going to be either white or pink, and then redbuds are going to be, for the most part, purple. Although there's an interesting redbud we have on the lot right now that is a white bud.
Really?
It's about to crack open. Yeah, a customer yesterday was very interested. She had never seen one before. She's from Texas, and she was like, I think I need that.
And is that not the Oklahoma white?
Yeah, Oklahoma white redbud. Yeah, we've got a few.
Oh,
They
don't
look
tell
really
the
nice
Texas
right now.
person it's from Oklahoma.
Well, I know, because redbud is the state tree of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So, but either way, for the corner of a home, as long as you bring it out, make a little round bubble in your bed or something. Bring the bed out a little bit. at least 10 to 12 feet, and then you can plant a dogwood or a redbud either way on the corner of the home. Looks really nice.
Yep, sure does.
Oh, perfect. All right. Do we want to keep going with questions for a little bit?
Let's see.
Sure.
Yep.
All right. Don't sound too excited. Here we go. What's some organic solutions to pest problems in a vegetable raised bed?
Organic solutions. So first things first, scouting. I've said this word before. You got to look. You got to really look at your plants. The more you can do with your fingers in your hands is the most organic you can be. So that's not always ideal. I get it. Say you get a aphid infestation. Aphids are small. They're hard to see. You don't notice them all that much. So if you do get an infestation and you want to take care of it, oils and soaps are always a good organic method. Now, do know you have to make contact with the bug to kill the bug with the organic products.
Right.
So make sure you're diligent about how you spray top sides of the leaves, back sides of the leaves, and all over the stems and everything. So those
Neem oil's good too, right?
Neem oil's good. Yep. Diatomaceous Earth is a nice little product you can put around, say, like for bugs that are down around the soil level. It's a product that actually just physically like cuts
Their whittle feet off.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
So kind of
Wow.
dark, but
Yeah, Josh.
it works.
Cutworms. I've heard putting toothpicks beside the.
I've heard that. I've heard putting little like rebar or something down next to the stem.
Aluminum
can help.
foil, I've heard, wrapped around the perimeter.
Yeah, cutworms are not fun though. Cutworms are bad. Hence the name. They come up and literally just cut the stem in half.
Yep.
So
Makes
not a
sense.
good worm. But if you put some diatomaceous earth around the bottom of the plant, whenever you first put them in, or whenever they're kind of growing a little bit, that should take care of most of the cutworm problems.
Now, last year, David suggested to me I was having a problem with slugs and snails, and then a snug and snail bait, instead of just putting it around the garden, he suggested that I take a cap, like a mayonnaise cap or a jar like that, put the product into the cap and put it a little away, and it worked very well too. Worked real well.
I've also heard, of course, Josh, you would never be wasting a beer, but I've heard people pouring beer into a cap, and that they'll climb over in there and they
drown.
die of the resultant intoxication.
I've done that method.
Only
and I
not-
did collect a lot of slugs.
You have to use a
So.
good IPA if you're going to do that.
I didn't use an IPA.
Yeah.
No, but I would because I don't like them.
I don't either.
Hey, let's talk for just a moment. Talking about things you can do to help make your gardening as organic and as pest resistant as possible is having your plants growing their very best, and you can get the best results with Earth Mix Garden products. And Earth Mix Garden products are available all over Middle Tennessee, Kentucky, even up into Ohio and Indiana. And what you get when you use Earth Mix Garden products is the best that nature has to offer. There are no chemicals. There are no additives that are not provided by nature. Now, Earth Mix does add some additional amounts of mycorrhiza fungi and humic acid, and that really helps to deliver a lot of extra nutritional value. And when you can keep your plants as healthy as possible, they are naturally more resilient and resistant to pests and diseases. So if you're thinking about organic gardening, don't think anything further than Earth Mix Garden products. It's available all over the area. Simply go to earthmix.net and click on the Find Earth Mix tab. And once you go there, you'll click on that and you'll see that now there are categories for all the different areas. You can either look at the map and see all the pins that way, or you can and simply zoom into a single location, like up in the Bluegrass Garden Center up in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, or you can type in your address for turn-by-turn directions for a location nearest you. And remember this, no matter which Earth Mix products you're using, success in gardening begins at the ground level when you use Earth Mix Garden products. And so support those great independent garden centers around that handle the Earth Mix Garden products line. So check them out.
They're everywhere.
They are. There are a lot of places.
The roots of my greens are so strong and healthy because I put my supernatural down on top of my raised bed.
And that's really a good thing for people who, particularly if you have used, say you've used Earth Mix Garden in the past and filled your bed, the natural thing that occurs when organic things are in place is that there is active decomposition that takes place. And because of that, there will be less volume occupied by the material than it was the previous year. So
Right.
you're going to need to add some material to it. And if you're going to just want to enrich it using Earth Mix Supernatural to simply work into the surface of the soil, does a great job of that.
Yes.
And there's no reason that you would need to go in there and swap out the entire soil. That is, unless you're growing tomatoes intensively. And tomatoes, because of pest or because of pathogens, it's really a good idea to
Rotate your spot. And
rotate your spot or change your soil out, and maybe use, if you're growing it in a certain container in a certain spot, is to take that soil and use it elsewhere and then refill that the next year. So, and our monitor continues to fight with us, Tyler.
We've lost the camera too, so just hold on a second. I'm going to
There we
switch
go.
over
All
to
right, we
Cary
got
and
it
Austin
back.
while
Hi.
I
Hey.
get our main camera back.
All right. We'll go ahead and go to our next question while we're getting some tech issues resolved. Transitioning propagations from water to pots. Do I need to let the roots fry a bit first? Any tips? I'm going to go ahead and assume you mean dry first, and no. So if you think about, you propped your plant, those roots get at least 2 to 4 inches before you want to transplant it. They've been growing in water, so they're not going to want to dry out. It's pretty much going to immediately kill your new plant. So when you go to transplant it into soil, you'll want to just rinse off the water, rinse off the roots, and then put it in some fresh, clean soil, thoroughly water it, make sure the water comes out of the bottom of the pot.
Right.
And then keep it fairly moist for a few weeks as it transitions from being in water into soil. Don't let it completely dry out, but don't keep it soaking wet. Just make sure the soil stays slightly moist for a few weeks, and then you should have a nice new plant. Super easy to transition. I mean, I'd say the success rate, you probably lose like 20%, or at least I do with my props. So just make sure you keep an eye on it, keep it watered, and it should be happy.
I had a friend ask a question that she was growing some stuff from seed in just straight perlite. Would that, you don't want to let that dry out either before she puts it into there?
It's hard to keep it from it.
I was about to say, yeah, that's
Perlite kind of just does
just-
dry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to transition that to some sort of soil.
What was she starting in perlite? Do you know?
She's got a little vegetable garden. Heidi, do you remember? Do you listen to what they're saying? Okay, get it out of the perlite. I kind of told you I didn't think that was necessarily the
another
best
thing
idea.
I think it's important for particularly new gardeners to keep in mind is 100% success rate with anything is not reasonable, particularly when you're dealing with seedlings, little small plants. Cary just mentioned, it's not unusual to lose like 20% of those plants. So if you're losing some, it's not a reflection that you're doing anything wrong necessarily. It just means that, you're going to have some loss. And even the professionals who do it at a large scale understand that they're not going to have 100% germination. They're not going to have 100% success rate. So just be mindful of that and have your expectations set at an appropriate level. That way you don't let yourself fall into the trap of thinking, well, I'm not any good at this when, in fact, you may be doing fine.
Yeah, you're probably doing great. I tell people all the time, it's trial by error. You're going to kill houseplants, you'll kill some props, and it's just a learning experience. And some plants do just kind of die sometimes.
Now, when you say prop, so that everyone knows what you're talking about, you're talking about
Propagation,
things that have been propagated. You're not talking about like the thing that's at the bottom of a motor on a boat.
No, or something that you have in a show, a prop on the side. So, yeah, it's a plant that you've taken a cutting and started pushing roots, whatever method you decide to use for that. Well, now with the perlite, one good thing to use perlite for propagation, I use it for cacti because you want those to stay dry. So I prop my cacti and it's probably like 70-80% perlite. The rest just an indoor potting mix. Proganics I is what I usually use, and it helps keep the cacti dry so it's not going to rot. Now with most other plants, if you're propping like a ficus, like we have all over this table today because I did a webinar on Thursday, just a indoor soil mix would be a little bit better for that.
Mm-hmm. When I was in college, we did a little experiment on grapes, and we used straight perlite for grape cuttings because they're very similar. Those hardwood grape cuttings, and they like to keep it on the dry side too. So that was another one that we put in perlite. But there's not too many that you do that with.
Mm-hmm. It's fun to experiment with plants and growing them. All right. Let's go on to our next question.
Okay.
Is it important to add compost / fresh soil Or could I use last year's in my raised bed?
Never a bad idea to add new compost.
No, it's not.
And that was what I was just touching on a moment
Right.
ago about adding Earth Mix Supernatural if you're looking to really revitalize the soil that you've got existing. That's a great way to do it without having to add a large amount of volume, really getting a lot of nutritive and things at the microbial level added to your soil to give you, all the things you need to grow organically and be successful doing that.
Mm-hmm. And you can still use some of your old stuff from last, down further in your raised bed or whatever. But certainly top dressing with some more nutrient is the way to go.
Well, a lot of folks think that pile of leaves and grass clippings is their compost pile. It's what they call their compost pile, but they really should be out there turning it or raking it around and moving it back and forth a little bit instead of just pulling it right straight off the top of the pile, right, Austin?
No, most definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Turning a compost pile is the most important process of the whole thing. So you got to get aeration, you got to get air on all parts of that, and if you just leave it lay, you'll see some good stuff happen in the pile, I guess, but the top's not doing anything. You got to really work it all the time. So get in the habit of maybe turning it once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. Hey, however many times you want to do it, it helps to really keep that turned.
Grab your little
And it
Manus
sounds
tiller,
fun.
and grab your little Manus tiller and run out there through it. Tomorrow morning, you see why? And again, the suggestion I'm going to make is tomorrow morning, if you have that pile of leaves and grass clippings, go out there tomorrow morning, take a pitchfork or a shovel and flip it over and see what happens, because you're going to see some steam coming off the top of it.
Yeah.
And that's the process that's breaking it
It's
down.
working.
And note to Tyler, we are bailing on that other camera. I'm officially giving up on it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
It is not quite.
It
It
a
behaved
good
last
camera.
week.
And it worked fine last week, but therein lies the problem.
Yeah.
Is that it lulls you into a sense of security that somehow it's really functional when really it's not all that. So we will upgrade some camera action to
Yeah, we'll take a
improve
look
that.
at it.
Yep.
Okay, well we're back online with you guys. So, the questions, keep them coming.
Keep them coming. Here we go.
Okay.
Any tips for keeping squirrels from eating all my peaches from my peach tree?
22
help.
caliber.
I'm not.
wow.
I'm talking witness relocation program. Is the way I go with that, and what I mean by that is have a heart type traps. These are humane traps. If you don't want to, if you're not into squirrel and dumplings, which by the way,
Squirrel and cobbler. Peach cobbler.
No.
Man.
I can't do
squirrel
this.
and dumplings are actually wonderful.
amazing.
But if you're not into that, and you have a place that will allow
Forget a
you,
bunch of chicken wings. You get that thigh from the squirrel. Oh, man. A little fried up with a little
if you're not
white
into
gravy.
putting them down and you have permission, you can relocate
Small
them
game
to
license
another
there.
location, and that's all legal, but you got to have somebody who will say, no, I'm fine with you moving them over here. As a matter of fact, from the hills of White's Creek here near the nursery got completely hunted out of squirrels years ago.
Because squirrel and dumplings is so good.
Well, apparently.
Yeah.
And what they did was they just hunted them to complete extinction. So twice I have done the witness relocation program where I move squirrels from my home in West Nashville, where they are in abundance, and 30 squirrels in 30 days. And consequently, there are squirrels back in White's Creek yet again. They have been repopulated. So that took care of that problem. So there you go.
There it is. Nice. All right. Keep going. Here we go. My Paleo plant has gotten too much water. Some leaves are brown. How do I save it?
Now, what kind of plant?
Paleo.
Paleo. Okay.
So I would say quit watering it for a while. Let it completely dry out. You probably will want to take the plant out of the pot it's in, knock off the soil and check the roots. And if there's any black roots or dark brown, go ahead and trim those off because those are rotten. You can always put some cinnamon on it to, it's going to kill any bacteria that's in there and help stop the rot.
Cinnamon?
Yeah. It's a nice antifungal treatment for plants. I use it all the time, and it's cheap, and you have it in your pantry more than likely.
Cool.
Yeah. And then you'll want to trim off all brown leaves, anything that looks damaged, anything that looks dead. Immediately get that off, and it's going to help promote new growth with your plant. Put it in some fresh soil. Once you have it in that soil, go ahead and water it and then let it sit and dry out. They do like to dry out in between waterings. They don't want to stay super wet. I let mine pretty much go bone dry between waterings and then thoroughly water the pot so the water comes out of the bottom of the pot. Make sure you have drainage holes in your pot too. That's a big thing. People think they can plant directly in a cachet, just a pot that doesn't have any drainage on the bottom. I would say absolutely not. I mean, you can always try, but that water is going to be trapped in the bottom. It's not going to be able to get out of the pot, and it's going to rot your plant pretty quickly.
Yeah, there are those who struggle with watering inherently, and they, for whatever reason, that's, I think, is the common thread between people who either quote have a green thumb or do not, is those people who naturally have an understanding that if you water things too frequently, you're going to tend to kill them. That's particularly true on indoor plants. On outdoor plants, it's almost the opposite is true, is where people tend to, it's that
Underwater.
out of sight, out of mind. So you have to be attuned to the needs of your plants and where they're located and what the likelihood is of they're needing to have interaction with you. Just because you walk past them 20 times a day doesn't mean that they need to be watered.
That's right.
And they normally thrive best with a degree of neglect.
A cordless drill, and particularly with the plastic pots and stuff like that, cordless drill and drill bit are your wonderful friend to take care of that for you. A lot of the pots have those little knockouts in them now, but if you have a ceramic pot, just as a suggestion, once again with your cordless drill, go to the place that you buy your drill bits and look for a tile bit. And you very slowly rotate the drill bit, and
there are a few of those anymore that
don't have.
Cary, how many containers do we actually have that have no drainage in the bottom?
I would say with our indoor containers, so the small ones, probably about 20-25% of our pots inside don't have drainage in the bottom. We call those cachets, and we recommend keeping your plant in a nursery pot, dropping it inside, which I do with a lot of mine, and it actually makes it easier to water. You can water it in there and then dump out the excess water, so you don't have to have a not great looking plastic saucer or spend a lot of money on a saucer, but keep the plant in the nursery pot, drop it in that cachet, and then you'll be able to get rid of that sitting water in the bottom.
And you do have quite a good selection here, too.
We have a great selection here. I would say it's better than good, Josh. It's amazing. And I've seen all of those pots.
Multiple times.
And you've handled them and moved them and put them onto the shelf.
And we still have 36 pallets of pottery left to unbox, so it's just going to keep coming.
All right. Speaking of keeping them coming, how about the questions?
Well, MRP Mims are a good viewer.
By the way, we're gonna try to get Miriam on the show here in the coming week. So Miriam, I hope you're listening. There is a wonderful home and garden tour going on out in the Belmont area where she resides, and we're going to want her to come on and talk about that. That's coming up in April, so not far away.
Her suggestion about the tree rats would be to get coyote urine and put it around the base of the peach tree. And you can find that at your hunting stores. And you get Bass Pro, the Academy, and a lot of those places will have that.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
There it is.
You can get a coyote or the wildcats. It's widely available. So,
all right.
All right. Next question. Young tree is leaning after getting hit by mower. Remedy?
You're going to
New
pull it back
lawn boy.
up straight
Yeah.
and stake it up. So yeah, you can use a T-post that's nice and sturdy metal. You can use wood kind of tomato stakes, if you will, is kind of what I think about them. Anything you can do, but you got to just pull it up straight, drive a stake next to it, and get it staked up and make sure it stays in the same place. It should be fine.
And you will probably need to try to go slightly beyond straight so that when you stop pinching it, it will go ease back into the vertical position. So it's a lot of times you've had surface damage to roots, which is causing it to lean, or maybe it's whatever you've hit it with that's caused that to happen. So you may have to go a little bit beyond, and you may have to keep that on there for an entire year in order for those roots to regrow sufficiently enough to support their own weight.
And I would put something between the tree and the cord or chain or rope or whatever it is that you're going to use.
I use old T-shirts.
Yeah.
I found that to be nice.
that's
Little
smart.
strips of old T-shirts. It's nice and soft on the stems, and it doesn't look all that great.
Now, old pieces of garden hose work
Hosepipe?
well also.
yeah, that's a good
Hosepipe?
idea.
Garden hose
Oh,
is what people who are professionals refer to it as, Josh. And a short section of that goes with the wire in between it does a nice job of
That jacket would be a good thing to put between there.
preventing girdling. You don't want it to cut into the bark of the tree.
Oh my!
All right, here we go. Could you suggest a deer-resistant ground cover for a shady, moist area?
Whew.
Buddy, 3 tricky ones. Shade,
got
moist,
Austin
and
stumped.
deer resistant. Phew.
You know, for a shady, moist area, I'm a fan of a steelbee, which is a shady-loving plant. The only thing is, I don't know if it's deer resistant off the
What
top
about
of my head.
Pachysandra?
Pachysandra, yeah. Do deer nibble on it?
I don't think the deer graze severely on that. Now, they pretty much are capable of grazing on anything. They tend to stay away from conifers.
Yeah.
But what that means is that conifers are typically not shade-loving plants. So there are a few exceptions, but those don't like wet areas.
Yeah,
So-
that's the problem.
How about moss
Yeah, I mean,
and some stones?
yeah, that's not a bad idea. Scotch moss, Irish moss is a cool little ground
It is
cover
cool.
that kind of like shady, moist areas. I don't know if deer to eat that either all that much. I mean, like David said, though, they'll nibble on a lot of things, especially new growth. But yeah, either one of those I think would work, and we sell them readily.
Yes, we do.
Very
I saw
good.
some come in. So that kind of pertains to our next question, which is, what are the best low-growing ground covers per path? Like large spaces between pavers. And so Austin just hit on Irish moss, which I've actually used before. Does great, and it's really fun to walk on if you're not wearing shoes.
Oh yeah.
Creeping
nice.
Thyme is a good one for that. It's a tiny little leaf ground cover. Blooms in the late spring into the summer. Cool little plant. You can step on it and it'll bounce back. It's not that big of a deal. Mondo grass is kind of cool if you like a grassy type look. You can even split those up and kind of sprig them in all over the place if you're kind of on a budget. Because Mondo grass is fairly expensive, especially black Mondo grass. Black Mondo grass, which is
so
kind of
cool.
cool. And it's another one you can use for that. So plenty of options. There's a number of sedums you can use for that, which
I
is
was
more
going
of a
to say,
succulent type.
At Joy's home, Turkish sedum was amazingly filled in around little stone pathways to different areas in the backyard. Mm-hmm. So that's a really good sun-loving one.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk for just a moment about where we are today. And as is every Saturday, the Green Room is located, in fact, at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. And we're open 7 days a week. It's springtime, so we invite you to come out and see us Monday through Saturday, 9 to 4, noon to 4 on Sundays. And we have a selection of plant material, and we have a selection of horticultural experts that are really going to be able to help you find the right plant and get the right plant in the right place the first time. That's the way we do it at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. This is our 90th year of business. My grandmother indeed did start the business over on 26th in Charlotte 90 years ago, and this is what I'm calling our Emerald Anniversary. So we hope you'll come out and visit us and see what all we're bringing in. We have done a lot of things to continue to work on our facilities. We've got a lot more structures up in place. We've done a complete revamping of our what was formerly known as the flat top greenhouse, flat topped no more. It now has gable roofs all the way down, so it's a much brighter, much more shopper friendly environment.
Great.
And we've expanded our shade area, which we don't have shade cover on yet because we don't need it yet. And also in Cary's domain where the tropicals reside, we've redone all of that. So if you haven't been out since last year, you got to come check it out. We've got a great selection of every different kind of thing you can think of because we're all about helping you buy the best plants and have the best success with them. And of course, we do that by recommending Earth Mix garden products. And when you use Earth Mix, you really have the opportunity to get things growing their very best with a minimum amount of effort.
Yes.
So remember this,
Earth
we've
Mix,
been beautifying
plant,
Nashville since
sunshine.
1932. Bates Nursery Garden Center, we hope you'll come out and see us and pick our brains. Take photographs of the area that you're working on and bring those along with you. And our landscape professionals will help you look at the spot and help you to get the right plants in the right place the first time. That's the way we do it. Come out and see us. We're conveniently located, as I would say, 1 mile north of Briley Parkway.
You'd be slightly wrong, but that's okay.
And Josh would, of course, say 9/10 of a mile.
0.9.
He, from a military background, so everything has to be absolutely precise and OCD. He's well trained in that.
How many clicks?
That's still it's 9/10 click.
Okay.
No. That would be about
1.2 clicks.
1.2 clicks.
Thank you.
1.2 clicks.
Yes.
Okay.
So
We're not talking computer clicks either.
come see us, Bates Nursery and Garden Center. We appreciate you giving us a moment to talk about that. Whatever you are looking for, trees, shrubs, ground covers, ornamental grasses, edible landscape plants, natives, perennials, garden plants of all.
Yes.
Our extensive selection of containers that Caroline was just referring to.
Wow.
Those are all on display here, and we have more coming in literally every day. So come see us.
All righty. Hey, before we get into more questions, can we talk about what's behind us over here?
It looks like a wooden panel.
Yeah.
Josh.
No.
It is a
Behind
wooden
us
panel.
and to the side of us here. It's gorgeous today.
Yeah, there's a lot of beauty behind you.
Yes.
That was a total design by Caroline yesterday.
Lots of color.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Over your head there, David, there's a beautiful dawn redwood, which is one of my favorite trees that there is.
There it is.
In general, and that's a lime green grower.
And does it have a patio peach there in front of it?
It does.
Yes, it does.
Bonfire.
It's in bloom. But yeah, that's a really cool conifer, y'all. It's a deciduous conifer, so it drops its leaves, which is kind of rare. There's only 2 around here that do that, and it's that one, and bald cypress. So
Yeah, we don't really have larch that are used
larch
in
is
this
another
area.
one.
It
But
was so
yeah.
cool this last fall. I have one in my yard, and it's statuesque. It's a feature tree. It's gorgeous. We had a guy stop and knock on the door and said, "Hey, man, that tree's dead. I'm going to bring it down." I said, "Get away from my tree and get out of my yard." Because, I mean, it turned a beautiful bronze tone last year, and then poof, they all went away. It's gorgeous.
They're a nice tree for the yard too, because there's not a lot of cleanup. There's just tiny little needles. You don't mow over it. You don't even have to mow over it. It just kind of settles into the grass. So, very, very large tree. I believe the champion in our state, last I read, was 137 feet tall at the Ellington Ag Center. So if you're ever out there, take a look at that dawn redwood. I have seen it in
Redwood,
person.
yes,
It is insanely big, beautiful, old, statuesque, beautiful, beautiful.
They
plant.
grow extremely fast.
They do.
Yep.
Yeah, for a conifer, very fast.
I
So-
love them. I
I'll
have
just,
one.
I'll just add, pertaining to Bates Nursery, I just wanted to mention that Garden and Gun magazine
Yes.
recently added us into their top 15 most favorite southeastern nurseries and garden centers. So that's worth noting. We noted that a couple weeks ago. David did in his newsletter.
We forgot to tell them last
Just
week.
wanted to mention it
we
on
did
air.
forget it, yeah. So, but it's amazing. Got to
Well,
come see it.
and I'm, from friends around the country, they have noted what an unusual combination of names. The name of the magazine is Garden and Gun. When it really has a little to do with guns. I don't ever see much. It's mostly gardening, and it's a for the lack of a better term, it's a high society magazine. So. So for those who are going to shoot squirrels with their white gloves on, I guess, Josh.
White gloves.
So I guess we got the white glove treatment.
Very nice. All righty. Let's.
All right, we've got 2 more questions if we
Okay.
want to try to get to them. Is now a good time to plant strawberries, or should I wait for fall?
Man.
It is
Get 'em in.
Get them in, man. There is no time to wait. You know, planting in the spring, almost everything is good to plant in the spring. It's just that you have to kind of watch as the summer comes on whenever we get potentially droughty, for lack of a better word.
That's a technical term.
Droughty.
It's a
Droughty.
horticultural term. But yeah,
That's a
when August
Tennessee mood.
rolls around and we start to get hot and dry, you just got to keep an eye on those plants you planted in the spring. But no, it's time to go. We got strawberries now, and let's get them in. You plant them now, you'll probably get at least a little bit of a crop this season. You may not get a ton, but you'll get something.
And anymore, the strawberries that are available in garden centers are almost exclusively the ever-bearing varieties. Now, back in the day, we used to sell a lot of the like Blakemore and those kind of they just bear one time. The ever-bearing do produce fruit throughout the growing season. However, it's not a profuse amount of fruit. It's just some all along. So for homeowners, it's really the better choice.
Yep.
You will continue to keep you in strawberries, but that would not have done for my grandmother. However,
It's a cool little
you get
plant,
sick
too.
of strawberries picking them.
Strawberries are one of the worst to pick. I had to pick those in college. We had a whole greenhouse full of them, and they hide so well. You got to be on your hands and knees. There's no good way to do it. Now, they're fantastic to just eat right off the plant, and they're great, but picking them, not fun.
Yeah, a few of them make it into the house at our house.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Already.
You pick 2 quarts and get a pint.
All right, last question. What is the best soil for seed starting, and how much light per day do they need?
Well, they being the seed, I guess it is seed dependent, but really what you're wanting to do is seed, when they are being germinated, don't really require nutrition. They don't even require light. They just need warmth and a sufficient amount of moisture. So one of the earth mix products that is forthcoming, it's not available, is a true seed starter type. Now you can achieve that by using earth mix sustain, which is coconut coir, and mixing some perlite and vermiculite in with it. If you're looking for things just to be able to start seeds and be able to start a wide variety of types, some seed will things such even as Proganics I, even though it has no fertilizer per se in it, it is a very fertile soil. So some seedlings would react negatively to that. So what other suggestions do you have with regards to that, guys?
Well, you mentioned Proganics I, and I've used that for a number of seeds, and I've never really seen a problem with it. I grew some catgrass last year randomly. I got bored over the wintertime and put Proganics I in a pot, and I just put catgrass all over top of it. They literally germinated within less than a week and had great results. I never had to move them or anything. They had plenty of nutrition from that soil after they germinated. Yeah, I think it's a fine product to start with. And then after your seedlings are up, it depends on what plant it is. But if we're speaking about veggies, tomatoes, peppers specifically, you want to give them as much light as you possibly can, especially if they're inside your home. Inside your home typically is not a good spot to do seedlings unless you either have a grow light or a fantastic window.
Yes.
So, like I said, once seedlings are up, to keep them strong and sturdy, you really need a lot of sunlight.
You need a lot of light, and you want to try to keep the temperatures as cool as possible. And the biggest mistakes people will make is either putting a seed tray on top of a refrigerator or a water heater where it's plenty warm, and while they're germinating, it may be fine, but immediately they need to get to a spot where they get very bright sunlight, but much cooler temperatures. They don't need to stay. The soil does not need to be 70 degrees after they germinate. It really would be better to be in the lower 50s for most things. Yep. It keeps them from stretching, and the higher light will keep them from stretching as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. Very
Perfect.
Good.
We did it.
Well, we actually have one more that snuck in here from the Facebook page from Donna K. Crowley. This is not me. Donna wants to know, do you have any tomato plants yet?
Yeah, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
they're in 4 packs,
Okay.
4-inch pots. We even have gallon containers. We even got grafted tomatoes right now, which has been very popular.
Got some heirlooms as well.
Got heirlooms, hybrids. We've got a lot.
Steaks.
And the list of all the different varieties is only going to grow exponentially at this point. I would say that we all total at the peak of the season will approach nearly 100 different types of tomatoes. We have so many different types, and with the interest that people have in heirlooms specifically, as you noted last week, Austin, they're as a family of tomatoes, they're not really pretty fruit to look at, but they are delicious to eat. Mm-hmm. And so consequently, for canning or just for a BLT sandwich, you can't beat heirlooms. And there's nothing like the first tomatoes that come off of the vine. And so that's why, a lot of people want to start off with a larger tomato plant because they're wanting to get that first tomato
before anybody else gets it.
Well, yes. Yeah. Hopefully in May, which is tough to do, but it's more realistic by mid-June. But if you have a cold frame or a way to protect it a little bit during cold nights and keep the soil warm, My dad used to consistently get tomatoes in May.
Yep. Tyler, can you go to input 2 quickly if you have a moment?
We also have a question
Okay.
on the Bates Facebook page.
Okay.
Kelly's asking, what is a good companion plant with honorine Joubert, and excuse me if I'm butchering that, anemone, which grows pretty densely but blooms later in summer?
Well, you might want to pair a flowering plant that blooms before that one just to extend your period. So that's typically a shadier-ish growing plant. It can grow in the full sun too, but maybe plant something that's going to bloom in the summertime, so you can kind of get that summer into fall transition into into those anemone flowers, which are more like fall bloomers. That's what I'd recommend. And there's a number of plants available for that bloom in the summertime.
Very, very cool. And what we put up on the big screen is at the Proving Grounds. I am going to do a product comparison between two of these two brands of flexible hoses, one from Flexi Hose and one from Innova 8, and we're going to see which one of those does. So stay tuned for reports about that. They're really neat.
They are neat. I will say that the ones that appear to be too good to be true
are
indeed too good to be true. They will. The first time you pressurize them and drag them across anything, even soft grass, they tend to
watch out for the the knockout roses. I'm going to tell you that
these both are pretty high quality hoses.
Yes.
So hopefully those will both give you satisfactory results.
The dollar store stuff I'm going to watch out for, but yes, the Flexi Hose we're going to see, because that one has a lifetime warranty. We've got 60, 90 days on the other one, so we'll see at the end of the summer. All right, folks, music means that we have completed another at-home program. It was a great show today, I think, folks, and good job by everybody on the in the cast and around the room here.
Thanks for all the questions.
Yes, thank you, because that's what makes the show better, is when you participate with us here and ask what you need to know. Hey, for everybody here at the at-home show, the entire cast, once again, Austin, Cary, Tyler, David, and myself, we thank you. We'll see you here next Saturday morning for another at-home show from the Green Room Studios here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. Nailed it. Huh?